public community meeting. We do welcome participation from the public. It is valued, and we do have a portion of that available during our agenda as marked there. And with that said, if there is anyone who wants to address the board, there is a public comment card that you can fill out and turn in to the front. With that said, let us stand for our pledge of allegiance. All right, roll call.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Miss Berry.
Here.
Miss Brackett.
Here.
Miss Lesh here. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Miss Ryder.
Here.
And Dr. Burnett.
Here, moving on to item Z, adoption of the agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I move the agenda for the board meeting of June 19th, 2023 be adopted as written. Support.
And roll call.
What's it? Thank
Yeah.
you, Katie. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Miss Berry.
Yes.
Miss Brackett.
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Miss Ryder.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes, moving on to item E, recognition of visitors. Welcome, visitors. Ms. Robinson, anything else to add?
No, just.
Now we move on to item F, public hearing on the proposed 2023-2024 budget.
I'm still on my mouth. I apologize about that.
Should have had the fries. You should have had the fries.
I know. Ouch. Do we have the, thank you, Mr. Place. Start out with our annual budget presentation. Thank you, and I will move on. Just a quick reminder, do I have control? Yep. Oh, nice. I like this. I like control. It's probably not the right thing to say.
Okay, used to it.
Thanks. Just a quick reminder of what our mission statement is what we put our budget towards. And then, of course, what is a budget? And this is more just making sure that we remember that we're trying to pre-plan, plan ahead, and that's exactly what we're doing with this budget here. Moving forward, I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on how Michigan money is allocated. I think it's important because this will help us in the future understand when things happen. So for instance, we have income tax of 21%, sales tax of 45%, and then we have a state education tax of 15%, and that's that 6 mils that is on everybody's taxes. So we're getting, this is how the money is allocated into the school revenue fund. So what ends up happening is we need to be careful because when we look at this, since the majority of our money comes from the state, we want to make sure that our state is healthy. If our state is not healthy, then we're going to have an impact that could trickle down to us. So really, this slide right here is more for you to see that, hey, we are dependent upon the state, so we really want to make sure that the state is doing well. So let's move on how they actually spend their money. And if you look at how they spend their money, you really can't see it, it's small, I need to go to my screen. The foundation allowance is the largest where the state spends money from the state school aid fund. So again, if something should happen, let's hope that it doesn't, but let's say that there's a recession or something happens and income tax doesn't come in or sales tax is not coming in, one of the biggest things that's going to get hurt the most is the state school aid fund. I don't say this to make anybody nervous right now because right now the state school aid fund is very healthy. But should something happen, we need to recognize that this is something that we are dependent upon. That's all. So let's jump into this. The purpose of the budget hearing, definitely have to do state law, set the millage rate, and just provide with you information for next year. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Back in 2016, voters approved 18 mills, so that way we can get 18 mills. This is all on non-homestead property. This is not on residential tax bills. This is only on second homes and such for 8 years. And then in August of 2016, Buchanan voters fortunately approved 0.5 mil because we were dipping below the 18 mills. And it's super important that we collect the full 18 mills, because if we don't collect the full 18 mills, the state is not making up the difference. The state is only giving us the foundation allowance less what we're supposed to be getting from the non-homestead. So this is, thankfully, that was also voted upon.
So if the state, real quick, if the state doesn't give that extra funds, where it comes out of where for us?
That means we just don't collect it, so our revenues will be decreased.
Keep decreasing, okay.
Exactly.
And we would have to make adjustments.
All over the place.
All
Yeah.
over.
Okay.
So we also have the sinking fund tax levy that's coming up here soon, which is really nice to have. So your question with regards to the 18 mills, we collect 14% of our revenues, which is a little over 2.7, almost $2.8 million. The lower that goes, that's just money we don't get. So we would have to make adjustments on the expenditure side as well to
Okay.
offset that decline. So then that moves us to our sinking fund tax levy, which is 0.7919 mils. It was voted on 0.8. Just the Headley rollback is what causes us to go back, not every year, but when when property values increase greater than inflation. So we're anticipating about $378,000 next year from our sinking fund tax levy. So let's talk a little bit about our revenue assumptions. The property tax values, the taxable values are set to increase 7.929% next year. This is for everybody, which means it's that high because inflation was higher. And so what happens is with your taxable value can be the rate of inflation or 5% cap. Well, the rate of inflation was greater than 5% last year. So everybody's getting a 5%, thank you very much, valuation, taxable value increase. The 7.29%, the reason why it's more than 5% is because people have sold their homes, so therefore a whole new valuation has been put on homes. So that's why it's 7.29% total. From the state revenue, we are looking at reducing categoricals, which is one-time funding, and then we are also looking at per pupil increase of $465. This has not been set in stone yet by the state. We were hoping that they were going to have it done by the end of May, which is what they were originally talking about, but now they're hoping to have it done by the end of June. Consensus among everybody is it's going to be $465 per kid increase. Federal revenues matching, aligned with Title I, Title IIA, Title IV. The revenues and expenditures are matching, so it's a net zero, so it's neutral, and then reduced one-time spending in other categories. So from the general fund revenue standpoint, you can see here that we have our local revenues, but our state revenues is the bulk of what we receive, so we want to make sure that our state stays healthy. So spend a lot of money. So we have 19 million projected for revenues for next year. And then for those that love the pictorial view of it, this definitely points out that we are very reliant upon state revenue. You can see there the spike in the federal revenue. I mean, I probably don't even have to tell you that it's ESSER money, but it's ESSER money. So from an expenditure assumption standpoint, retirement rate is still about 28%, a little bit over 28%. So that remains the same. FICA remains the same. The insurance hard cap increased 1.9%. We do have steps for teachers, steps for qualified support staff. We also have a 1% salary increase for our 12 administrators. And then this is the break out between salaries and then what's left over, you'll see that we have a little over 14 million, almost 15 million in salaries, which is about a little over 75% of our expenditures, which it's about 80% outside of that. If you put in third-party outside people that are coming, like me per se, it's closer to 80% is what it is. So we're on par with what the rest of the state is doing. So this leaves us a little over 4.5 million to spend. Now that sounds like an awful lot, and I know that I mentioned this last year, but when you get aging infrastructure and you have items that need to be taken care of, you have buses that are breaking down and need to be fixed. I mean, there's a lot of needs and attentions that need to be met. So that 4.5 million goes really, really quick. So with that, just so you are aware, some of the capital expenditures that we're looking at, for this budget alone, we are looking for a school bus and a van for $172,000, and that's both of those. And the remaining capital purchases are currently being vetted through our buildings and site fund, so we might be able to use those to help offset any other major needs that need to be addressed. So let's talk a little bit about the general fund expenditures. The big part here is basic instruction and added needs, which is a little over 11 million. And you'll see here in a little bit, it shows that we are using our money and applying it towards our kids. So if you look at the full budget amount, we have over $11 million of our monies being used to direct support to our students. So all total, we are looking at a little over 19 million for expenditures for next year. So from the pictorial standpoint, this is one of the reasons why I like this, because this definitely shows, if anybody asks, hey, where are you really putting your money? You can use this slide and say, hey, this is where we are putting money, and we continue to do it, and we have continued to do it. This is for the past 5 years, but I know for the past 10 years, I just couldn't fit them all on the graph. Which then leads us to our fund equity. So we're anticipating ending the year at $4,201,426. Understand full well that this is based off of the budget that was approved in February, I believe, off the top of my head. So those numbers are going to change for the better, and you'll see some of that later tonight. So we are projecting $19,400,000. We are also projecting expenditures of $19,700,000. So we are looking at a almost a $270,000 hit to our bottom line. This would put our estimated fund equity balance at $3,931,463. On this note right here, please understand full well that I do budget rather conservatively on here. There are items in here that we anticipate getting, but we have not had any guarantees that this is going to end up taking place. In addition to that, when we did our calculation for our students, we calculated our students a lot less than what I shouldn't say a lot less, but about 10 students less than what we really expect that we're going to be getting. So please understand that these numbers are very conservative. So from a revenue, expense, and fund equity standpoint, you can see how we have done through the past few years, and we've been able to maintain pretty darn well. And you can see the jack up in revenue and expenditures for COVID year. So then I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that Michigan Gateway Community Foundation is a phenomenal partner with us, and they have given us so much. So through the Buchanan Promise, we have a little over $1 million this past year, 2020, for the class of 2023, and we've got grants of $37,225 just from them alone. And so I just wanted to make sure that they are recognized for all of the good things that they do for our school and our kids. And with that, please do not hesitate to ask Carrie any questions that you may have. Oh, sorry. Is Is there anything that I can address for anybody right now?
Appreciate the
Thank
slideshow.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You do a good job.
Yes,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Awesome. I'm going to go up there. If you need me, you know where to find me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Any public comment?
All right. Moving on to G, public comments for the hearing on the budget for the 2023-2024 year.
No cards.
No cards, no comments. Looks good. There you go. All right, moving on to item H, points of pride, our varsity softball team, regional champs.
Yeah, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Our ladies did really well this season. We're so proud of them, making it as far as they did. We are looking forward to next season. They were well coached. They are also just their demeanor and disposition was well put together. So I want to thank Coach Carlson for all that she's done throughout this whole season. I know she's already thinking about next season and what they can do. So they'll get there. So we appreciate the community for their support as well. So, yeah.
One more thing to add, the 38 wins is a school record for
Oh,
wins this
yay.
season.
Awesome. Oh, just so cool. All right, item I, superintendent department reports. Anything else to add?
Yep, just the Parent Advisory Committee was held on May 17th. Our main focus, or it ended up being a focus of talking about our threat assessment process. So we know within our district, we have a lot of work to do with that. That process is new, and we have a district team that was trained by the behavioral threat management team. So we are making adjustments, and those parents that did attend, there were 2 who wanted to help and be a part of whatever that team might look like. So
Nice.
lots of work to do, but we're thankful that we do have a process that we can work through now regarding threat assessments.
Very good. And Mr. Curlin, we have a presentation. 98B.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was already ahead of you. So.
He's like, woo.
Sorry, Mark, you got to do it. You're here now in your Cub shirt, so.
Yeah.
Wait for Phil to cue it up. I thought you were going to.
The 98B. Yes, yep. He's not seeing it.
Pardon?
He's not seeing it.
I sent it to him the same time as him, but that's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. I can talk without
Yeah,
it.
go ahead
They
and
have
talk
a
through.
copy of it. Okay.
Mark is gonna talk it through.
Yeah.
He has this.
So do you guys have a copy? You don't have a copy of paper, do you? All right, that'll be cool. Okay. All right, so I'm here to, good evening. I'm here to report on 98B goal reporting for the Board of Education. If you recall, we did it last year. We also do it in the mid-year in February, and then we do it in June. The purpose and requirements for PA 48, Section 104A, is that you're required to have a K-8 benchmark assessment in NWA, and we chose NWA as a district. And then 9 through 12 local assessment. This year they chose ELA, the same assessment that they gave last year. And then, like I said before, we have to report out scores mid-year and then the end of the year, which is this meeting today in June. So at the mid-year, we were looking at the 40th percentile rank for NWA, and then at the end of the year, we look at the 68th percentile. And since you don't have it there in front of you, I'll just read a couple. The cutoff for end of the year 60th percentile for kindergarten is 67%,
in math, and then 5th grade is 68% in math, and in 8th grade it's 61%, just to kind of give you a feel. Usually it's pretty close in that mid to late 60s range. For reading, kindergarten is at 68%, 5th grade is at 62%, and then 8th grade is at 58%. That's what the goal is. And then the high school 9 through 12, they said all students. That's just what they used last year, and Brian chose to stick with it the same this year. Slide 4 is the results for math. And so in math, out of the K through 8 grades, we had two grades that reached their goal or surpassed their goal. 2nd grade, the percentage that they were supposed to reach was 67%, and they made 71% in math. And then 7th grade was at 59%, and they were right at 59%. 8th grade was at 61, was their goal. They were real close at like 58%. So just to kind of give you an idea, and that's kind of been standard the last couple of years. When you move over to reading, we had 1 grade, 2nd grade, again, reached their goal. It was 68%, and they made it at 70%, just to kind of give you an idea. And 8th grade, their goal was 55% in reading, and they made it at 68%. Again, those have been strong for us, 2nd, 3rd grade, 8th grade. The high school scores for ELA, just to kind of give you, they did not reach 100%, but they did show improvement across the board. So in the winter, all students for 9th grade was at 10% passing or proficient. At the end of the year, they were up to 13%. 10th grade was almost at 12%. At the mid-year, end of the year, they were at 13%. 11th grade was at about 15.6% mid-year. End of the year, they moved up to 33%. Big jump. And then 12th grade was at about 11% mid-year, end of the year, 28%. So 11th and 12th grade really made a big jump towards the end of the year, which is great to see. I went around and I had some discussions with the principals. I know that Trish has had some discussions with principals as we look at PD for next year. Trish and I had some discussions about trying to bring in some more math PD. Elementary has always asked for math, and so we've got some district PD built in, some time frame built in there for Joel Shecky to come in if we so choose. And then high school has worked with Amanda Veltman, who's the new math consultant for secondary. And so she came in and did some work with Brian and some of his teachers this year, just looking at data, looking at PSAT, SAT data. Reading, lots of new curriculum coming in. Moccasin just purchased, mid-year purchased the Wonders curriculum, and so they'll have some PD built in next year. And then the middle school is looking at doing some new PD purchases sometime later on this summer for the fall. Math is going to be sticking at K through 5 is going to stick with Go Math one more year. And so those materials will still need to be ordered over the summer, so they're here for the fall. And then the high school, secondary 6 through 12 is doing a math pilot, so with Reveal. So that'll be some interesting work for them next year. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get that? Yes, I remember, I figured we will.
All right, we'll move on to Human Resource Committee there as far as reports.
I can share a report. We went over the resignations and the, oops, went too far. Sorry. We met on June 7th. It was Ruth, myself, Kelly, Trish, and Carrie. We went over resignations, and at that point, we had 5 of them. Middle school, Moccasin. 2nd grade teacher, 3rd grade teacher, I believe. Lindsay Haroff.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
2nd grade, okay. High school Spanish, Charlie Murray. Stacy Lee was middle school special education. Mary, I'm going to say her name wrong, Kopka, was kid care, and then Kathy Paderowski for interventionist. We had most of these, I believe we had a heads up that they were coming, so there weren't any big surprises, and we were able to get ahead of some of the interviewing, which was really good. And we do have hires for 4th grade, 3rd grade, band, I don't know what, food services, and maintenance. So we were able to fill some positions that have been open for some time, which is exciting. And to know that it was done before the end of the school year is really, really nice. We do have open positions in kindergarten, special education, science, behavior interventionist, as well as choir. There was also some movement of teachers from one grade to another grade. We had applied for a Grow Your Own grant, and we did not receive that grant. So kind of looking at what other options we have in place. But it's nice to know we're still applying for grants and looking for funds wherever we can to make sure that we're utilizing all of the resources. We talked about upcoming contract conversations that will be happening, and then also discuss the school farm, and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any questions? All right, thank you. Finance Committee?
I'm happy to. We met on June 7th as well for the district. Trish, Brian Brown, Carrie, and Courtney Schubach. Am I good? Okay. Courtney works with Brian at the RISA. And Katie, myself, and Jenny from the district. The entire discussion was budget related, and you have all the documents in your packet, and the slideshow from Brian was already presented.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Very good. Moving on to the November 2023 bond discussion. Reporting on that.
Yeah, we wanted to bring this to the table so we can have just a little bit more dialogue about our next steps. As we know that in May, our question to our public did not pass. So we, just as a group, need to come together and talk about our next steps and how we're going to address our facilities here in the future.
All right. Where would we like to begin?
I can kind of share what I talked about last time of just there are some important dates for next year as we look at, I mean, we have some deadlines that we're up against regardless of what we decide to do. So if we were to decide to do something for the November election, now I'm going off of memory, we would need to have our wording ready and everything done and submitted by June 30th. So we're up against the clock on that. In addition to that, Brian Brown touched on him tonight when he mentioned the sinking fund and as well as the operating fund for operating millage. Those come due next year for an election. So obviously, some of those we need to keep the lights on and to keep teachers in place and day to day. So I don't know that this is the right time to ask voters for another millage on top of it, knowing that one of those is as critical as can be for the district. So that's my thought on it. There are a lot of things that we need to do, and I think prioritizing what those needs are, continuing to look for grants, continuing to, even we had Brian Fisher making a donation that was huge. Is there an opportunity to do some more of that and look at different funding for different ways of doing things?
Great.
So is with all of that to consider, are we thinking about if we go again, right, sometime in 2025? Then?
It wouldn't be until, I mean, I guess we could look at the end of 2024 if we get everything passed early in the year in 2024, but that's a lot to ask as well. Especially, I know Brian mentioned also, so thanks Brian for giving us all these points, mentioned what's coming with the state. If the state's not in good position, that changes our funding, so making sure that we're making a good financial decision for the long term. And some of it is an unknown right now for what may be coming with the economy.
Other thoughts?
I would just say that in both cases, in November and then most recently, very disappointing results. And this school that we're sitting in right now is 100 years old. Moccasin is 76, same age as I am. And at these ages, there are lots of Band-Aids being put on, lots and lots of Band-Aids. But we will continue with Band-Aids until there's a more beneficial time, a better time to go again for a bond. At some point, these buildings need help. And unfortunately, because of the sinking fund, because of operational, that 18 mil non-homestead, we're up against a real roadblock. And it makes me very sad for the community that we have to wait. So.
And I think with that, and you talked about the Band-Aids, there are things that we have to figure out a way to address. I don't think that we
Yes.
can all
You can't wait 2 years.
move on and not address some of
Right.
the ADA issues that we have in the building. So I
Right.
think finding a way to do those is something that we have to prioritize.
And I think that the Facilities Committee is doing a pretty good job with what funds we have remaining, and we prioritize what is the most important. And we spend a lot of time thinking about, discussing those various priorities. And you're right, ADA is huge. And some of those ADA, we've been compliant legally, but now we also have that moral responsibility.
The spirit.
I think to the public, the second, where we have a lot of support, and they came out, and then when it did not pass, I think that we're going to have more input. I've gotten and received a lot of input. I think there's some really good ideas from our community, and so having some more public forums where that can be shared once we maybe organize our thoughts and prioritize, but go back out to the community and those that really want to push, because they were upset that it didn't get passed. So how do we move forward from there? We always have public meetings, reference bonds, and we've had, I would say small attendance. So I do think maybe that bond not passing opened some eyes to why not and everything that we are facing. And we did a really good job showcasing the 100-year-old building and the 75-year-old building, which changed a lot of voters' opinions on, especially walking through and when we did the tours. So I look forward to keep having community come back and have their input and get this bond rolling in the right direction, so it does pass when we decide to go forward.
Just one other thing, just this pause would allow us to, just some time to heal as a community and then also as a school district, and to rebuild our relationship, because we know that our school district know that we can't exist without the community, and vice versa. The community, a thriving community, cannot exist without a school district. So we go hand in hand. And so just as Kelly was saying, this gives us time. I think it gives us enough time to, bring in more community input before we actually put a dollar amount or a project list out there. And then as this time goes on, we are just taking a pause. So because these buildings within our district do need additional help. As we go through this pause, we're working with the committees, which is, consists of the board members and then also our district. We prioritize what we can do, and then in the midst of that, we communicate to the community what we are doing. So this will also give us time to put out what we are being able to do, either through we have this ESSER project that's going on right now at Ottawa, putting that information out, and what we do with our sinking funds, being better communicators with our community of what we are doing. So it gives us time to do that.
Anything else? I agree with what's said, that our operating millage has got to be a priority to keep staff and the offerings we have, class sizes where they are. I I don't think we want to run up against that next year. As great as the needs are here, and prices on construction aren't coming down, they're only going up. So as we move forward, it's going to take more dollars, or we're still going to fix less things, unfortunately. But I think the operating millage has to be the focus moving forward.
I agree. There are obviously things that need to be fixed. I think Katie mentioned looking into other funding sources, other ways to do things. I think that's absolutely the right thing to do, and give the community time, as there's been a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of work, a lot of effort has gone into this, and we need to give people time to regroup and recuperate from the last year.
And I think it's important to say, it's a renewal. It is no new dollars that will be on the ballots in
Exactly.
Just a renewal,
2024.
nothing added,
So-
right?
I hope that is one that people really take to heart, I guess, when they vote.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is focusing on what's coming up, the renewals, making sure those happen, but at the same time, doing some healing and re-strategizing and doing what we can, prioritizing with what monies that we have, as well as getting other funding sources, and then coming back at this again with some new strategies and again, opening up, buildings and to the community and really putting that out there, sounds like.
The community, the committees did amazing work. There was a lot of information available, and we just have to build on what we attempted and just keep going. But we need a pause, in my opinion.
So not giving up, just taking some time to, like Trish said, heal, but also redirect, come up with a new strategy. And I think maybe more likely at that time, we'll probably have a better success if we do that. All right, very good. Good discussion. Anything else to add to this? All right, good. All right, move on to item L, public comment. We have none, so we're going to move on. Adoption of the consent agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves the consent agenda for the regular board meeting of June 19th, 2023 be adopted as written. It includes minutes from May 9th, May 15th, June 6th. The first one was a special meeting. The last two were regular meetings. Secondly, there are warrants, which include the treasurer and expenditure reports for May 2023. We have probationary tenure listings for the 23-24 school year from Buchanan High School, Buchanan Middle School, Moccasin Elementary, and Ottawa Elementary. Fourth, we have employment contracts for the 2023-24 school year, including Michelle Munyon, Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent and the Board of Education, Laura Morris, Payroll Coordinator, Becky Kaltenbach, Food Service Supervisor, Nate Will, Transportation Supervisor, Sophia Williams, Utility Coordinator, Michael Cornelius, Maintenance, David Short, Maintenance, Stephen Schaefer, Bus Mechanic, Ethan Kaufman, Operations Utility Staff, Robert Kaufman, Operations Utility Staff, Dave Griswold, Operations Utility Staff, Judith Hartman Conrad, Operations Utility Staff, Brianna Hillinger, Operations Utility Staff, Don Spielman, Operations Utility Staff, Sandra Summers, Operations Utility Staff, Michelle Trail, Operations Utility Staff. Fifth, it includes the MHSAA 2023-24 membership resolution. We have number 6, recommendations for hire as submitted for third grade teacher Shane Farley, fourth grade teacher Katie Dietrich, maintenance David Short, Buchanan Middle School, Buchanan High School Band Director, Mark Hartman. And finally, the number 7 is employment departures, Stacy Lee, who's the middle school special ed teacher.
Support.
All right. Any questions on the consent agenda? All right, roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. All right, moving on to recommended action in one BVA graduation certification.
Oh, geez,
May I have a
sorry.
motion? May we
Thought
have
I
a motion,
turned it
please?
off.
It wasn't me this time.
Nope. Sorry.
So anybody?
Like a referee, everybody check their shoes. No, make sure your phones are off.
I even shut it off, though. Okay.
That happens.
All right, well, upon satisfactory completion of district requirements for the high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves for the Buchanan Virtual Academy students, Takshia Ennis, Ruby Kimberly, Aisha Lee, and Cynthia Petway, and Buchanan Step Up student Jayla Outlaw.
Support.
And anything else to add, Ms. Rouse?
Just congratulations to everyone as they finish their courses and are now graduating, so.
Very good. Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item N2, Neola, second reading. We have a motion.
I make a motion that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following Neola new and revised policies. 1422, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 1430, leaves of absence. 1615, use of tobacco by administrators. 1662, anti-harassment. 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunity. 2260.01, Section 504, ADA prohibition against discrimination based on disability. 2340, field trips. 2623, student assessment. 3122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 3215, use of tobacco by professional staff. 3362, anti-harassment. 3430, leaves of absence. 4122, non-discrimination and equal employment opportunity. 4215, use of tobacco by support staff. 4362, anti-harassment. 4430, leaves of absence. 5512, use of tobacco by students. 5517, anti-harassment. 5610, emergency removal, suspension, and expulsion of students. 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. 7434, use of tobacco on school premises. 7440, faculty security. 7540.02, web accessibility, consent, apps, and services. 7540.03, student technology, acceptable use and safety. 7540.04, staff technology, acceptable use and safety. 7544, use of social media, which is new. 8300, the continuity of organizational operations plan. 8305, information security. 8315, information management. 8390, animals on district property. 8400, school safety information. 8510, wellness. 9160, public attendance at school events. And 9700.01, advertising and commercial activities.
Support. I feel guilty saying support
I know.
after you read it.
You read it last time, so it was my turn.
I saw you getting ready. I was like, yes.
And this is just the second reading of the policies that were reviewed last meeting. Any questions before we vote? All right, roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes, moving on to item N3, 2023-2024 administrative contracts. May we have a motion?
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves the annual district administrative contracts for the 2023-2024 school year from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Support.
Yeah, Ms. Robinson, anything else to add to that?
No, nothing to add, but thank you guys for for your consideration for approving this.
Any questions? Roll call?
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Ms. Brackett?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. Moving on to item N4, adoption of the 2022-2023 final budget and the 2023-2024 budget appropriation resolution.
I move the Buchanan Board of Education, in accordance with the General Appropriations Act, accepts the Buchanan Community Schools budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 amended as presented, and the 2023-2024 budget appropriation. Said documents to be entered into the minutes of this meeting and to take immediate effect.
Support. Oh.
All right, we had our presentation and
You
things.
two
and-
girls down there, I can't hear. Who was first?
Jenny.
I know, it's hard to hear. I used to have like,
Okay, you got it?
yep, I got it.
All right, we had our presentation, and any other questions on the budget? All right,
I would like to say, as a non-math person, I appreciate the graphs
Understanding,
and the
yeah.
information. I could understand it. Thank you.
pictures with colors are great.
Yes, color code everything.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. And
And roll call.
the whole group, Courtney. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Miss Berry?
Yes.
Miss Brackett?
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Miss Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes, moving on to item N5, November 2023 bond resolution. May we have a motion?
How does this work?
You just, we're going to vote on this.
Okay.
Amendment.
So someone has to make a motion and then, okay, thank you.
So I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education agrees to add a school bond to the November 2023 election ballot. And then now we vote.
We have
But
to
we
have support.
have the support.
Oh,
All right, I'll support.
This is not the renewal.
Correct.
so discussion is, this is not the renewal.
Right.
This is what.
This is not the
The second thing we
renewals that
talked
we-
about the
right.
pause.
Right.
Yeah,
This is what we just discussed previously, that we're not going to go this route, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So if it doesn't have a second, it dies. Yes.
Well,
It
still
could,
be-
or
Or it could
we
be
can have
rejected.
someone support it, and then we can vote.
Right.
Harvey just supported. it.
Harvey
I supported
just.
it.
Oh, I did not hear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so let's just vote
Oh,
it,
okay.
and then.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah.
Please, Harvey.
That's another way we can do it.
We could just
Bruce.
not do anything, but.
She
let's
was
just
waiting.
vote it and-
He's on my list.
We can do that.
Okay.
All right, let's do roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
No.
Miss Berry?
No.
Miss Brackett?
No.
Miss Lesh, no. Dr. Carlin?
No.
Miss Ryder?
No,
And Dr. Burnett?
No.
First time I wrote a lot of no's.
All right, moving on to item N6, moving into closed session for the superintendent mid-year evaluation review.
I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education moves into closed session per Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act to conduct a mid-year evaluation review of the superintendent at 6:53 PM.
support.
Is that roll call?
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Miss Berry?
Yes.
Miss Brackett?
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Miss Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett?
Yes. All right. And where are we going?
We're going into the boardroom.
Okay. All right. Let's have a motion to return to open session.
I make a motion, the Buchanan Board of Education resolves to return to open session at 7:35.
Support.
Roll call.
Just a second. Gotta write these names.
Sorry.
All right. If I didn't have the time in there. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Miss Berry?
Yes.
Miss Brackett?
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Miss Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes, moving on to item N7. Excuse me, accounts payable and business manager contract with RISA.
I move the Buchanan Board of Education approves the contracts for accounts payable and business manager services with Berry and Risa.
Support.
Anything else to add? Ms.
No,
Rob?
just that we thank Beer and Risa for this collaboration, as this is sort of like a pilot for setting up other services within the RISA as well, so we thank them for this.
It's turned out to be a really good
Right.
asset for us, and
Right.
having the knowledge as that contract position, so.
Yes.
Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Miss Berry?
Yes.
Miss Brackett?
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Miss Ryder?
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving on to question and comments from board members.
I just had one, and I'm a month late, because
That happens.
I was sick last month. For those folks that may be watching at home, and for everyone here, we received a list of grants from the business office, and I don't know if everybody got it or just facilities. But our grants that we received, there were 16 total. Total dollar amount, $2.1 million. Some of that's being spent this fiscal year, some next, because the grants are year-round and don't go by our fiscal year. That's not any ESSER dollars. So I think we do a great job, the staff does here, of finding grants. $2 million is a lot of money.
Yep.
Across 16 grants, and that's, again, not ESSER dollars, which was COVID dollars. So thank you to everyone here that's finding that money that is free money. Supports a lot of our programs.
I think that goes along with being told no on a grant. The worst that can happen when you ask is being told no, so the more you ask, the more no's you'll hear, and I think it's good to know that we're trying to be creative and find ways to get it.
Very good.
Agree.
Anyone else?
One of our Buchanan graduate just received a huge honor of Miss Michigan 2023, Maya Schutneck. So very proud of her, and what a representation for the state of Michigan. So Buchanan's very proud of our graduate, and I know she'll do a great job. She was a herd leader and just has done so much. She won in 2019 Miss Southwest, or Spirit of Blossom Time. So she's got a lot of experience, but I think she'll go far and, like I said, represent not only Buchanan, but the state of Michigan. So I look forward to, she'll probably be here, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yes, we want to wish her congratulations, so.
All right.
I just want to say, with, the agenda item tonight regarding administrative contracts, just make me think about how appreciative I am, and probably I speak for others as well, in the administrative leadership of our district, from, the list of names that went through tonight, to the people that run our buildings, even the individuals that are here tonight, Phil and Michelle, and obviously Trish. We can't do any of this without you guys, and we've talked a lot about what's missing in our district, and obviously the highs and lows of trying to get buildings refurbished and bonds passed and everything else. But the good news is our human resources are pretty strong, and that starts with our administrators and trickles down. So thank you for the job that you guys have done, and thank you, Trish, specifically.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and by the time we have our next board meeting, thrill on the hill will have happened, so please come on down. And yes, Phil, I did sign up to get dunked. Yes. So, hope you're happy. We can always delegate. All right, with that said, our next board meeting is July 17th, and we stand adjourned.